الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, inshallah we are going to start with small surah and then Duaa Tawassul and continue with the lecture with my brother Barakat, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. My condolences also to you all, brothers and sisters, for Shahadat of Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam, Bab al-Hawaij.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بتقواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا.
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا غرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله.
يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله
يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله
يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النبي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله
يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله
يا وسي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها الغائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا
يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله.
Ask for your haja. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم عمتي وعدتي ليوم فغري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, I am going to recite Duaa, month of Rajab. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا من أرجوه لكل خير ومن سخطه عند كل شر يا من يعطي الكثير بالقليل يا من يعطيه من سأله يا من يعطي من لم يسأله ومن لم يعرفه تأننا منه ورحمة آتني بمسألتي يا جميع خير الدنيا وجميع خير الآخرة واصرف عني بمسألتي يا جميع شر الدنيا وشر الآخرة فإنه غير منقوص ما أعطيت وزدني من فضلك يا كريم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا ذا النعماء والجود يا ذا المن والتار حرم شيبتي على النار اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد عجل فرجهم. Please recite one time Surah Fatiha, Alhamd, and 3 times Surah Ikhlas for all your marhumin AJA and all the Shahadat. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد الخلق وعز المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على
محمد
وآل
محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى جميع أنبياء الله والمرسلين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. We are in the month of Rajab, a holy month, from what we call the holy month, the sacred month, min al-ashhur al-hurum, and belongs to Ashhur Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributed certain month for him specifically. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named the name of all the month, and he indicated the number in the holy book of the Quran. إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا or 12 شهرا. The number of months with respect to Allah are 12. However, I just want to remind the brothers and the sisters, we spoke about this before, Allah out of His rahmah, since we spoke about the rahmah of Allah, everything we talk about is to show a reflection of this mercy. Rahmatullah. Brother Tabibi is a madhar of Rahmatullah. You, a reflection of Rahmatullah. You is a reflection of Rahmatullah. I am, he is, and a lot of people, they look for miracles. They want to see miracles in order to believe in the rahmah of Allah. But you are yourself is a miracle. The way you talk, the way you walk, the way you sit, the way you sleep, the way you eat, the way you breathe, the way you inhale and exhale, the way we reproduce, the way we are born, the way we cry, the way we sleep, and the way we wake up. All of these are signs of Allah. These are miracles. You are the walking miracle, the talking miracle, the sitting miracle, sleeping miracle, the eating miracle. But because of the repetition, because that you have seen this phenomenon repeats itself so many times, you tend to underestimate the value of the fact that it is a miracle. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in the Holy Book of the Quran to think and to reflect and to focus on these motions and on these ayat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَلْيَنْظُرَ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقَ. Let the human study and reflect and observe from where he was born, how he was born, from which material he was born. In Surah Al-Tariq. خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ. He was created from a pouring liquid, water. يَخْرُجُ مِن بَيْنِ الصُّلْبِ وَالتَّرَائِبِ. Al-ayah, I don't want to go into details. The summarize of the discussion that you are a manifestation of the miracles of Allah. We are the manifestation of the rahmah of Allah. The creation by itself is a miracle of Allah. If you are to observe yourself in the morning when you wake up, you look at the mirror and you study yourself, you say, according to the way Imam Musa described,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali
Muhammad describes certain notion and phenomena in the human. When he asked the Indian doctor was challenging Imam Salah about the knowledge of medicine. And Imam told him, there is no need for me to ask you about medicine because I have my own ways. And then finally, when the Indian doctor challenged him, he was not a mu'min. He said, so you know about medicine? He said, yes, I know about medicine. This is why I came in order to cure the Khalifa. The Khalifa Abu Ja'far al-Mansur always summoned me because of my knowledge in medicine. I said, okay, since you know about medicine, let me ask you a few questions, please, with your permission. He said, please do. He said, why our eyes are horizontal, is not vertical? The Indian doctor said, I seriously don't know. He said, why the lines above our eyebrows, they go horizontal, not vertical? I don't know. Okay. Why our eyebrows above our eyes, not below our eyes? I don't know. Is the bones of your skull and the bone that covers your brain, is it one single bone or is it a combination of bones? And why? The Indian doctor said, I have no idea. He said, okay, why is it that your nose is going downward, not upward? Why is it that your lips are different? The upper lip is different than the lower lip. Why is it that your hands folded inwardly while your legs folds outwardly? No idea. He said, okay, tell me, when you step on your feet, is your feet flat or there is a dent in the bottom of your feet? He said, no, there is a dent. He said, why there is a dent? All of these questions that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam asked, and he could not give any of the answers. And the Imam alayhi salam detailed all the answers to the doctor. Detailed all the answers with logical answers, medical answers. I don't have the time to go through it because our time is always limited. Inshallah, we will have another chance. We will go into the details because we need to still cover the discussion of Imam al-Kazim. So the point that we are addressing, that the signs of Allah is everywhere. It is within you. It is around you. And it is on the horizon. And if we are to use the same methodology of conductive reasoning and inductive reasoning to come to the conclusion about the existence of Allah and the signs of Allah, we could come to the conclusion easily, just like when we go to university and study any theory. Because the same methodology has been used. And our Imam Salamullahi alayhim used that methodology, which is the logical methodology. A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C. And Al-Imam Al-Shaheed Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, Ridwanullahi alayhi, discussed this issue in his book, Al-Usus al-Mantiqiyya lil-Istiqra', the logical foundation for conductive and inductive reasoning. And he also explained it in the book Falsafatuna, our philosophy. These methods, Al-A'imma told us about it and used it, and it was the main reason why people with intelligence accepted Islam at their times, because they were the most knowledgeable. And when you are debating someone who has full knowledge, equipped with a language of logic and common sense, you cannot defeat him. Unless you want to argue for the sake of argument. And this is why we read a statement that came to us from Imam Ali alayhi salam. ما حججت عالما إلا وغلبته. Anytime I will debate a knowledgeable scholar, I will convince him. وَمَا حَجَجْتُ جَاهِلًا إِلَّا وَغَلَبَنِي or وَغَلَّبَني in some of the readings. And anytime I want to argue with an ignorant, I cannot win the argument. You cannot win the argument with an ignorant man. Especially those who have what we call structural ignorance. العلم الجهل المركب. Some people, they have some knowledge, little bit, they read a little, they think they got it all. They want to argue with you. And I hear it, every once in a while I hear it. Some of the brothers who read, they go to Al-Imam al-Thalith Ashar, Google, and they read a little bit, and they come argue with you about why Allah made al-riba haram, why this is halal, why this is haram, why this is... So, we said that Rahmatullah manifests itself in everything around you. And also Rahmatullah manifested itself in the way Allah chose things. Allah makes the best of choices. We don't make the best of choices. Because if the choice is made based on knowledge, who is the most knowledgeable? Because Allah is the most knowledgeable, then His choice would be based on all-knowing, all-seeing abilities and capabilities that He has, so His choice would be the best. Who am I in order to argue and contest the choice that Allah made versus my own choice? Since my knowledge is what? Limited. So Allah, out of His rahmah, He chose places, He chose people, He chose times, and He chose zones. So Allah, in His choice among people, He chose certain people, found them suitable, eligible, capable of delivering His message. And there is an ayah in the Quran indicates to that. Allahu a'lamu haythu yaj'al risalata. وَمَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيرَةُ. The choice is not for them to choose who will deliver the message. It belongs exclusively for who? For Allah. So Allah chose Al-Anbiya. And Al-Anbiya that Allah chose delivered the best way, in the best form, and in the best manner, where in comparison to others in their own time, they will not be able to perform equally like a Nabi performed in any time. During Adam alayhi salam, from the time of Adam until Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, among the people that He chose also A'imma, Awsiya, Khulafa, Abrar, Ma'sumun, Mutahharun, Sadiqun. All these wonderful qualities that Allah chose those people to what? To interpret and explain the message of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And our A'imma, the 12 of our A'imma, and we know them by their names, we know them by their fathers and their mothers and their kids, and we know them. When were they born? When did they pass away as Shuhada? And we studied their eras, so it is known to us. And the thing that supports the authenticity and the truth of such a claim, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi was the first person to speak about them openly, and to tell us that some of these Amma are known to Al-Anbiya from centuries before. And it was the hadith of An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi that predicted accurately a lot of events, and he predicted the names of our A'imma, and he told us the names of our A'imma, and he gave them the nicknames. Now, did he do this on his own? In our thought, and in our belief, no, he didn't do this on his own. Why? Because Allah defined His mission, yani Allah defines the Prophet's mission in delivering the message. He defined it in such a way, clearly telling us in Surah An-Najm, chapter of the star, that anything Ar-Rasul said, or does, or did not say, or did not do, is a actual proof on what we can do and what we cannot do. Because according to Al-Quran, whatever he utters, any word that comes out of him, it is not going to be gone out of his mouth without the approval of As-Sama, without the approval of Allah, without the support of Allah, without the support of revelation. As a matter of fact, it's nothing but revelation. So the revelation expressed itself in two ways. In al-ayat that was descended on the heart of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, and in the behavior and in the words that Rasul said. Why? What is the proof? Because the proof is very clear in Surah An-Najm. Look at this wonderful statement. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. For those who understand Arabic, they will surrender in front of this ayah. وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. He doesn't utter, yani any word, yani any word that comes from the mouth of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is not coming aimlessly and unpurposely and without approval of Allah. وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى. He doesn't speak out of his own personal passion or anybody's passion or anybody's desire. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. So whatever Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi utters, speaks, it is nothing but revelation shall be revealed to him. That's the value of our Prophet. That's why we say he is immune against mistakes. That's we say he's immune against committing al-haram. That's we say that he's the most knowledgeable. That's what we say, that he spoke every single language. And he communicated with every creature. أُوتِيتُ جَوَامِعَ الْكَلِمِ. What a statement. I've been giving collectively all the linguistics in the world. What does that mean? It means any form of communication existed that Allah created or shall create, Muhammad had knowledge of. And this knowledge was transferred from Muhammad to Al-Imam Ali alayhi salam. And this knowledge was transferred to Al-A'imma salamullahi alayhi. So if you observe the history of our A'imma, the history by itself poses a challenge to all historians. Those who wanted to prove and those who want to find the evidence that in the life of Al-A'imma there is no one can surpass their knowledge, or no one can surpass their fada'il, or no one can surpass their iman and their taqwa and their truthfulness and their piety and their knowledge, you could come up with a clear conclusion. And I put this challenge to every historian out there. Give us one dalil and give us one proof that any of our A'imma learned or studied at the hand of anyone, except in the presence of their Imam before them. No. No. So Imam al-Kazim alayhi salam, Al-Imam al-Kazim, the son of Al-Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. The son of Al-Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. The son of Al-Imam Ali ibn al-Husayn Zayn al-Abidin, the son of Al-Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, the brother of Al-Imam al-Hasan, the son of Al-Imam Ali alayhi salam, the son of Fatima al-Zahra, the daughter of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa. So one time Al-Imam al-Kazim in the presence of Imam Ibn Hanifa, Imam al-Hanafiyin, he was telling him a hadith, and then he said, حدثني أبي جعفر الصادق عن أبيه محمد الباقر عن أبيه علي بن الحسين زين العابدين عن أبيه الإمام الحسين عليه السلام عن أخيه from his brother الإمام الحسن عن أبيه الإمام علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام from Muhammad عن محمد صلى الله عليه وآله عن جبرائيل عن الله. Abu Hanifa said, this is a chain that I should call it the chain of gold. If it was read on a crazy man, he will get his mind back. So the opinion of Al-Imam Al-Ma'soom Al-Mutahhar, the most knowledgeable, is not a question of a personal opinion. It's a question of the whole truth that reflects the true reality. All of us, if we are to study, we can come to a conclusion based on the evidence that we have. and there is a probability of hitting the target of the truth or making mistakes. Maybe something will miss us, or we will miss something, okay? But when it comes to Al-Imam, Taqreerul Imam, the speech of Al-Imam, the hukum of Al-Imam, the fatwa of Al-Imam is Aynul Waqa. It is the truth, nothing but the truth, like the way Allah wants it. That is the difference between our school of thought and another group. Yes, it is our own responsibility in that sense, is to investigate this hadith that we heard. Did it come from the mouth of Al-Imam or not? Or the behavior that been narrated, was the behavior or the action of Al-Imam or was it not? That's a different story. So Imam Al-Kazim, Salamullahi alayhi, his nickname was Al-Kazim. He lived with his father for 19 or 20 years, and the extension of his imamah went over 30 years. And most of these times, the most knowledgeable man of his time, the purest man of his time, the pious man of this time, spent most of these years in jail, taken from one jail to another for a crime he did not commit, for no crime he committed. Just because the leader at that time, leaders at that time, Khulafa Bani al-Abbas, they were afraid and they were jealous and they had fear because of his popularity and because the love of his people towards him. So they want to separate this connection between Al-Imam and his followers. And despite every effort they made, they failed. They failed miserably. And beside the ayat that I spoke to you about, the sign that Allah showed us, the ayat that's around you, within you, and in the horizon, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a reflection of His rahmah, sent those people, supported those people, protected those people, helped those people, defended those people in order to keep His message alive. And in order to leave no excuse for anyone Yawm al-Qiyamah to say, well, you did not leave me an example to follow. And those people were truly the pious, the most pious, because Allah tested them. If you observe the legacy of Al-Anbiya, and if you observe the legacy of Al-A'imma, you would see them that they were not normal people. They were tested. Allah tested them. Every mu'min shall be tested. And you shall be tested based on the depth of your faith. And they responded in the most beautiful way. From An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, to Al-Imam Ali alayhi salam, to Fatima alayhi salam, to Al-Aqila Zainab. Observe the difficulties that they went through, and they never failed to show the Iman in Allah, and the love for Allah, and the support for Allah, and to deliver the message, and to speak the wisdom. Most beautiful. As a researcher and as a humble student, I'm a professional student for the rest of my life. I don't know what would I do if there were no legacy for Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad in Islam. I don't know what kind of Islam I would follow. Because if you want to follow Islam that makes sense and understand Islam as Allah revealed it, you have to stick to Al-Quran and Itratu Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa. And this is a unanimous hadith among all the Muslims. I'm leaving among you two things. As long as you stick to them, you will never go misguided. What are these? Kitabullah. Allah called it the rope of Allah from heaven to earth. وَعِتْرَتِي أَهْلَ بَيْتِي, and my household. And He named them. And He told us about them. And He gave them the names in numbers. And we know them. And history proves that they were the most knowledgeable, the most pious, the purest, the bravest, the most ethical, the most merciful among people. يا أيها الناس أعطينا ستا وفضلنا بسبع، or أعطينا سبعا وفضلنا بست. حديث الإمام زين العابدين عليه السلام in the presence of Yazid. So Imam al-Kazim was called al-Kazim, and al-Kazim in the Arabic language, the one who suppress and hold and control his frustration and anger because he is exposed to unfair treatment and he was exposed to unjust behavior towards him. They wanted to discredit this family. They, at that time, during Khulafa Bani al-Abbas, they wanted to invoke every possible media way in order to discredit the reputation of such a man. And Harun al-Rashid arrested him. And he sent him from one jail to another in different cities. And every time he goes to a jail, the governor of that city would write back to Harun al-Rashid and he said, "What do you want me to do with Musa ibn Ja'far?" He said, "Is he still alive?" He said, "Why do you want me to kill him? I don't see any harm from him except knowledge, except wisdom. And he helps, and he guides, and he treats, and he cures. And you only see him in a state of sujood, or in a state of salat, or in a state of siyam. For years. Not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 years, no, for years, decades." And Al-A'imma did not only use the wisdom in order to attract you to them or to Islam. No, they also used miracles, unusual things. Al-Imam al-Kazim, in the presence of others who did not support him or like him or who disliked him, they have seen the miracles he performed. When the animals and the other creatures and the bird were obedient to him, when he communicated with the birds, he communicated with animals. If you are a Muslim and you believe this is unusual, well, Al-Quran spoke about that with Sulaiman alayhi salam and spoke about that with Dawood alayhi salam. عَلِّمْنَا مَنْطِقَ الطَّيْرِ. We were told and we were educated to understand the language of all kind of birds. When the queen of the animals, of the ants, how small is the ant? How big is the human? When King Sulaiman was marching in an area where there was a kingdom of ants, when the ant spoke, telling her constituents, if I could say, "Move in and hide, so the feet of the army of Sulaiman will not destroy you or break you." He heard her. فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا مِنْ قَوْلِهَا. The Quran said, then he smiled of what she said. إِنَّ الْمُلُوكَ إِذَا دَخَلُوا قَرْيَةً جَعَلُوا أَعِزَّةَ أَهْلَهَا أَذِلَّةً وَكَذَلِكَ يَفْعَلُونَ. And then Sulaiman communicated with the hudhud, communicated with the horses, communicated with the goats. And when Dawood alayhi salam was starting to do at-tasbih according to Al-Quran, I'm not saying this from my own. When he starts performing at-tasbih, the trees around him joined him, the flowers joined him, the branches joined him, the stems joined him, the birds joined him, and then even the mountains. He heard the tasbih of the mountains. يَا جِبَالُ أُوبِي مَعُهُ وَرَوِّي مَعُهُ. عُلِّمْنَا مَنْطِقَ الطَّيْرِ. We were taught to communicate. And Imam al-Kazim performed these miracles. He performed it in front of Harun. And they were frustrated. They want to get rid of him. And Allah will protect him again and again and again. Until one time, they wanted to make it an accident. All the lions were not fed, and they broke their dens, and they jumped to the jail, and the jail were next to the animal zoo at that time, because they used to collect lions. So they did not feed the lions for a few days, and they made the lions hungry. And then they released the lions to the cell where an Imam al-Kazim is there. And for 3 days, the lions were sitting right next to him, protecting him. They went and they hired the most beautiful singer and escort, bad woman at that time. She used to sing. And not a good woman. They call it غانية, مغنية, وناذلة, يعني low life. يعني a woman would hire her body for others. But she was very, very attractive and most beautiful. Harun brought her, sent her to his cell, and informed her and promised to give her money if she can entice him to do what Harun wants, al-muharramat, in order to discredit his image and his reputation among the public. And he would send his messenger to the leader of the jail. What did you see? What did you document? He says, every time we look, this woman that you send as a dancer and as a singer, he gave her a haba. She wore a hijab, and she is sitting right next to him in a state of sujood from al-Dhuhr wal-Asr until al-Maghrib. Allah guided her on his hand. And Allah gave her al-istiqamah through his words. Imam al-Kazim, his enemies, those who did not know him, they would say their stories. Many stories came to us about the miracles, about the ilm that Allah granted him through Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Hammad ibn Isa one time, Al-Imam did him a favor. He did a favor to Al-Imam. He respected him. He told him, can I help you? You look tired. May I give you a seat or something? He said, no, thank you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking good care of me. When he saw al-hayba and al-iman and the knowledge, then he came and he said to him, can you please make dua for me? You seems to be a Abdul Saleh. One of his nickname also Al-Azhar. Al-Azhar means his color is red and pinkish because of his iman, because of his nur. Al-Kazim wal-Azhar. So he looked at him and he said, Sayyidi, may you ask Allah for me to grant me a place that I can live, and a wife, and a son, and a servant that could help me because I don't feel good. And also I have not been to Al-Hajj. Can you ask Allah for that? Then Imam Kazim alayhi salam raised his hand and made a dua for Allah. And he looked at him and he says, Ya Hammad, Allah will grant you a wife and a son and a servant, and you will perform Al-Hajj for 50 years in a row. This is a famous story. This is a famous story among all the Sunni and Shia. Hammad ibn Isa went to Al-Hajj for 50 years in a row. When he was 48 and people came to see and talk to him, he said, yes, this is my 48th year. I'm looking for the 49th and the 50th. And he did. After he completed his Hajj, after 50 Hajjah, he passed away, rahmatullahi alayhi. We come to this conclusion. Such people that existed in our history, we need to know about them. We need to learn from their legacy. We need to know from their jewels. We need to know from their wisdom. Al-Imam al-Kazim, his debate. Al-Imam al-Kazim called for Islam through his akhlaq, through his sabr, through his hilm, because he did Kazim of al-Ghayr. He controlled his anger, despite the fact that he had every right to be angry. But he controlled his anger and he called for Islam and he attracted people to the truth. And he was the subject and the reflection of our rahmah from Allah that I was talking about in the beginning of the discussion. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of his rahmah in Al-Quran described him. وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ, with this statement, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا. And we made them أئمة that will guide others to us through our command. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ فِعْلَ الْخَيْرَاتِ. And we revealed to them to do the good deeds. And they were foremost in doing them. They were the first people to do it. They beat everyone in performing it. سابقون بالخيرات. And that's what I need to learn from Imam Kazim, me and you. We should not. How much time do we have? A couple of minutes, inshallah, we finish?
Yeah, you got a few minutes.
Okay. سابقون للخيرات سباقون للعمل الصالح. And this is why Allah classified them in Surah Al-Waqi'ah. The people on the right, the people on the left, and the people on the front. والسابقون, those who beat everyone to be closer to Allah, to Rahmatullah, to Ridallah. We seek the Rida of Allah night and day, and we don't know. You could be pleased with Allah yourself. If Allah grant you health, if Allah grant you money, if Allah grant you power, if Allah grant you knowledge, you say, Alhamdulillah, I'm pleased with you, Ya Allah. But the question, is Allah pleased with you? Despite all of that, is Allah pleased with you? But when it comes to Al-A'imma and Al-Nabi and the purest of the purest among the companions, Allah made this relationship reciprocal. فَرَضِيَ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. He was pleased with them and they were pleased with him. And when it came to Muhammad, it is Allah who asked him, are you pleased with me? وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَوَدْ فَتَرْضَى. Allah shall give you until you completely pleased. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بارك على محمد وعلى محمد. سلم على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم إني أسألك بشهادة الإمام الكاظم وأسألك بمداد العلماء ودماء الشهداء، وأسألك بحبك لمحمد وآل محمد وبحب لمحمد وبحب محمد وآل محمد لك يا الله. إلا صليت على محمد وآل محمد وارحم موتانا يا الله واشفي مرضانا يا الله واغفر ذنوبنا يا الله واقضي حوائجنا يا الله واقضي ديوننا يا الله وانصر مجاهدينا يا الله وبدد غمنا يا الله وفرج همنا يا الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى في هذه الساعة كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ya Allah.
Brothers and sisters, just an update. The reason Maulana is not here, he had a colonoscopy today, so he's resting tonight. He's fine, he's good, he's at home. So inshallah, Maulana, if you're watching us, inshallah, our prayers are with you, and we miss you.
صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Davazi balan salavat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
लिखा है हर वरक़ पर तारीख़ करबला। دریا بہا دیے ہیں عباس نے وفا کے لکھا ہے ہر ورق پر تاریخ کربلا کے ہے یادگار عالم مولا کی ناخدائی ہے یادگار عالم مولا کی ناخدائی ڈوبے مگر سفینہ اسلام کا بچا کے لکھا ہے ہر ورق پر تاریخ کربلا کے جب زیر تیغ مولا مصروف بندگی تھے جب زیر